Hello and welcome to Mr. M's classroom, and today we will be covering TPE 1B, which is subject-specific pedagogical skills for single subject content areas. Basically, this TPE is designed to determine whether or not you can appropriately and effectively teach your content area. Now, the specifics for TPE 1B will change depending on what content area you are actually teaching. But the overarching rule for the TPE is that you first and foremost actually teach the content area you are supposed to be teaching and not something else. Secondly, you teach while adhering to the state standards for your content area. Additionally, non-English language arts and math classes must also integrate Common Core state standards for each of their lessons. Before we begin the actual lesson, it's important that your student objectives are somehow linked to the standards you'll be covering that day. Also, making them visible for your students is also very helpful. Now we can get into what an effective lesson might actually look like. And before that, let's just pretend that my phone isn't pointing at my computer screen. Just pretend it's a projector or something. But we would start off with this image and have the class discuss what the image is and what it means in pairs or small groups. As you can see, the class of 3 is discussing the image at hand. This also doubles as an entry-level assessment because they should recognize Theodore Roosevelt in the picture, while also hooking them on the lesson so that way they can be engaged at the very start of the class. Now, the body of the lesson will be split up into 2 parts, and the first part I will be reading a speech by Woodrow Wilson on moral diplomacy, and I have given the class hard copies of the speech so that way they can follow along themselves. Highlighting important points and possibly adding images might help striving readers and English language learners. Finally, the students will take what they have learned from the speeches and what they know about the 3 diplomacies and organize them onto a graphic organizer, obviously. This will help them visually represent the information that they have learned to make it easier to recall it later. Also, this will be a form of formative assessment, so that way when they turn it in, I can determine how well they have learned the material and whether or not we can move on the next day. But that more or less covers TPE 1B. It basically comes down to teaching effectively and engaging your students and making sure that they learn the content area that they are supposed to learn. And I would also just like to thank Puffin, Charizard, and Fluttershy for cooperating with me today for this lesson. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned a little bit more about TPE 1B.